Good morning and welcome to Sweet Home California. My name is Jennifer, and today I'd like to introduce a new show that I am premiering on This Way Network. It's called Rainbows and Silver Linings, and I had my first episode last week. It premiered on the This Way Network, and so this week I'm going to have it on my channel here on Sweet Home California. And I'm going to try and keep up with doing it that way so that the first episode, first time it shows up, will be on This Way Network. So it'll encourage you to go over there and please subscribe. There's a lot of other content creators on the This Way Network that you'll also want to be checking out. But then if you missed that on This Way Network, then it'll be over here also on Sweet Home California. Well, it'll be every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific. So right after this one, this show is over, please go on over to This Way Network. I'll have the link in the description below, and watch this week's episode of Rainbows and Silver Linings. And please comment in both locations. Let me know what your thoughts are. It helps the algorithm get conservative content out there to more people. Anyhow, I appreciate you watching, and I will talk to you next time. And now on for the show. Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Rainbows and Silver Linings. And I want to tell you just a little bit about the origin of this title. I believe that rainbows are, it's God's promise to us that He's not going to destroy us by a flood. And you see the rainbow out there in the clouds after a heavy rain, and it just, makes you happy. And, sometimes it doesn't even have to be a heavy rain. It's just a light mist out there and you see the rainbow, and it's just a great reminder that God is out there, and He's out there, watching out for us. And He has hung His bow up, which is a bow is a weapon, and He has hung it up in such a manner that is not pointing towards us, is pointing towards the heavens, and therefore, we're safe from His wrath. And then the silver linings is, in the midst of a storm, you don't see the rainbow, but there are silver linings. You can see, some hints out there. And I love the term silver lining. In fact, I got it from our guest today, that she would end her episodes with "Look for the silver linings." And unfortunately, YouTube didn't like her too much, but we're going to bring her on with us anyway. Our topic today is going to be pro-life issues, and we have Kim joining us now.
Hello, Jennifer. Thank you for having
Kim,
me.
how are you?
I'm doing great. It's
So
been
I
a
still
day.
see that you've got your name there as H and E, but
Yes.
you're doing some other things now as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that before we get into our topic?
Yes, so I do have a YouTube channel. It's just Chaos Coordinator. It's just stuff we do around our house and how we do things and kind of documenting memories and things. And so far I've got like 400 some subscribers. It's not as big as the other one, but the kids love it and I do enjoy it. Um, Taking a little break right now just because of the Lenten season, but I'll be back in full force after Easter.
Well, that is wonderful. And yeah, it is Lent. And we have something else in common besides our conservative leanings. We've also got our Catholic faith that is in common. And of course, a big thing with Catholicism is the pro-life movement. And it was the Catholics that have been behind the March for Life
Hmm.
and the 40 Days for Life. Now they've gotten more ecumenical,
Hmm.
and which is great because we need to have everybody involved on this. Is so huge. But we have gotten some good news here of late. Is there
Well, inform
anything?
me because I've been off of the news for the past week and a half. So I gave up.
Well, this is just
I gave up
building.
news for Lent,
So
so I don't
yeah,
know
this
if.
is just been building. This is not time sensitive to today or the last week
Okay,
or
got
whatever.
it.
But we've had the Texas heartbeat bill that really puts it at 6 weeks. We've
Hmm.
had Mississippi, I think, is at 15 weeks.
Hmm.
We've got Kentucky that is trying to put through a 15-week ban as well. So all these things are,
I know
they're
we're
not.
waiting to hear back from the Supreme Court on their decision and from
Yes, they have already heard arguments,
arguments and
and
from.
I think the term ends in the summer. I think it's June.
Yeah, it's this
So
summer.
if
And
any,
from.
we probably won't hear. They normally like hold all this stuff up until the end of their term before they tell us.
And I've heard from Robert Barnes, who I listened to, and he analyzed it all, and he was like, "Yep, it's gone. And he's like, it's we don't know what the what they're gonna say instead, but he says as it was presented and as argument RV what I don't know if I can say it, but Roe v. Wade is he's like
Sure.
it's gone. He's like what they're
I
gonna
didn't
say
hear
is
that. I did not hear
hmm
his analysis of that. So can you
hmm
give me some highlights?
Oh, that was a while ago that he did that. But he said basically what he was here by the judges, the questions they were asking, they were looking at the constitutionality of things because back then, the technology, the arguments that they had, they just didn't know. And so they didn't, there's plenty of documentation of, fetal pain and things like that. And so the questions that were being asked by the judges that are unsure of were very clearly, their answers and questions very clearly indicated that where their line of thinking was going. And Robert Barnes knows those justices so well and their history and their, um, what indicates what as far as what they're going to rule on. And obviously, like a couple of them are very easy to know where they're going, but the two uncertains, which was no three uncertains, which is Roberts, Kavanaugh, and Barrett. He said all three of them. He's like they're uh, going to swing towards against it because it was as it was presented and everything. If you actually look at the legality of 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 Roe v. Wade, it actually was a really really bad case.
Mhm.
There was it just wasn't based on fact, and anything that they did claim as fact has been proven else otherwise.
Even
So
the
he's like,
statistics,
mm-hmm,
because part of the argument was that we're trying to save women's lives who are dying in back alley abortions, and so they were claiming thousands of women were dying every year, and that turned out not to be the case. Is
mm-hmm,
that correct?
yeah, and then they the whole fetal pain thing is the big one. So
Mhm.
um,
Yes,
we'll
absolutely,
see.
yeah.
But
Um,
my biggest thing is I look at it and I'm like, the only two countries that have the same abortion restrictions that we do are North Korea and China. Not quite sure that's something I'd like to have in common with them.
Absolutely.
Like
You're
literally the only other countries that do the same thing we do. Let's think about
you
that.
are spot on about that, that is for sure. I don't want to do
Hmm.
anything the same way that those 2 countries do.
I do
Yeah,
not.
well, we had in our church, we had, a woman who had interviewed, Dr. Bernard Nathanson
Hmm.
before he died, and,
Who is that?
he was the one who falsified those statistics.
Oh yeah. And
He
what
was
did?
he
What?
was a part of trying to push this, case and provided the technical details of why, women should be abortion should be legalized. And he then had a conversion when he was using ultrasound, and it's like, I just didn't know. And then he became a staunch pro-life advocate. So Dr. Bernard Nathanson, who was staunchly pro-choice before having this revelation, then became from an atheist to being a Christian to being a Catholic, pro-life. And
Is
so
he
he,
a white male? Because it's interesting how his is he a white male?
yes,
So his opinion mattered then, but
it doesn't
now
matter.
it
Yeah,
doesn't matter now
yeah. It's just
because
like
he's a white
Norman
male.
McCorvey. Norman McCorvey was uh, Roe. She
Yeah.
was
Hmm.
Jane Roe,
Exactly. Yeah.
and she never actually had an abortion.
Yep.
And
It was all
she,
made up. It was a completely fabricated case, and that's where they're like, "This was just a bad case to begin
mhm,
with." Like it's kind of, I mean, anyway.
yeah. So
So
anyhow, she was the poster child when she was still pro-choice, but then she also had that evolution in time of finding Christianity and deciding that you know she was pro-life.
hmm
Though, however, at the very end of her life, they were trying to paint her in a much worse light and saying that the pro-life movement was using her. So I don't really know too much about that, but I hope she really did have a conversion and she's up in
I
heaven
think she
now.
did. Yeah, I think that she did, from everything I've heard. So
Yeah. Abortion is just, it's like the scourge of our time. We have had over 60 million abortions just in our country since it was legalized in the 1970s. And as a comparison, and I know I have Jewish friends who say that never ever ever compare anything to the Holocaust. But I don't know what else people can
mhm.
really
No,
understand
it is. It's a yeah.
that yeah, it is. It is a Holocaust. It is the death. It is the dismembering. It is the killing of over 60 million children, and in just our country. I don't even know what the statistics are worldwide, because
Just like they tried to use the ashes for soap and buttons, we're trying to use the remains for scientific research. I mean, trying to justify it even and trying
yeah,
to make use of the waste. It's just,
yeah. And I want
mm,
to add this here. This is from Second Chronicles 7:14. And it says, "If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land." And I think that is where we are right now, that, we want God's blessings. We've had so many times in our country's history where God has been watching over us and given us divine providence, that we made it through the American Revolution, that we made it through the Civil War, that we were able to lead in World War I and World War II to stop those aggressions. And yet now, our country's falling apart. And how can we ask God to give us any more blessings when we are killing so many innocents?
and I said, somebody once said, they said, hindsight is 2020. And I
Mhm,
really think that year was very uh, eye-opening and put a lot of things in focus for a lot of people.
mhm.
The year itself being 2020 was very uh, pivotal. And since then, because I've been watching this pro life movement since I was itty bitty, I wrote the essays as a kid. I went to a pro life march when I was in eighth grade in DC. It's just been part of my, I mean, my whole life is just constantly the thread of the pro life movement, and seeing it has exploded, especially in the past couple years. Um, and people aren't afraid to speak. It's again the whole silent majority, which is, it's sad. We shouldn't have been silent, but at the same time, I'm realizing just how much I mean, pretty much everybody's pro-life. Just the loud voices and those in charge are not. And so it really is a matter of time.
Yeah, and it's also so much, the way that the media spins everything.
Hmm.
They ask the question about, "Are you pro-life or pro-choice?"
No, they don't even say that. They say, "Are you pro-abortion or pro-choice?" They don't even, or no, they say, "Are you sorry, are you anti-abortion or pro-choice?" Is what they'll say. They don't even.
Yeah, but the point of the matter is that it is they basically count anybody, even somebody who wants restrictions starting at 6 weeks. So long as they allow that first 6 weeks, then they're in the pro-choice camp.
And
You know what
who's
I mean?
from whose perspective?
From the media. The media wants to inflate the numbers of the pro-choice.
Oh, I see.
They want the
Oh, I
pro-lifers
see
to
what you're
feel
saying.
like
Oh, I
you
never
are in the
considered that.
minority. Yeah, so I have some, let me see if I can find it here real quick. I've got so many links open on my other page. Um, might
Yeah,
have
and that's
been,
that's one thing I realized with the media. Like they say a lot and they make everything seem like it's normal. And I have these older the older generation that I really respect and things, and they get a lot of their news from these sources. It's like, if you don't trust them on the pro-life issues and you don't trust them to speak about Catholicism, in a good way, and you don't trust them to talk about anything conservative, why would you believe them on anything else? Like, why do we believe them at all? Like, why are we giving them any credence? If my children lied to me as much as the news did, they would be grounded. I mean, you wouldn't be friends with somebody who lied that much. Why do we give them any credence for anything that they say, you know?
right.
And so that's why, their numbers are crashing. That's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah. Um, I'm not technologically advanced enough to be able to show you this other thing I was going to tell you about, but it
Sure.
is a Gallup poll from, and I will put the link
The
in the
description.
show's
Hmm.
descriptions down below. But at the very top, it says pro-choice is 49%, pro-life is only 47%, with no opinion being at 5%. But when they break things down as to whether or not they want any restrictions at all, it's very few that want no restrictions at all. It's like 13% want no restrictions. So whereas the Democrat talking points are they want abortion available from birth all the way up until from conception to birth.
Hmm.
So, I think that's what we need to do. We just need to take incremental wins, like the 6-week ban, the 15-week ban. And it's a matter of also that, at the very beginning of all of this in 1973, the vast majority didn't believe that this was a good thing. But then when something is legal, it then becomes the moral thing.
Especially when you give all the government the authority for just if you are atheist, you don't have any other higher power to answer to than the government is. They have all the answers, and if it's legal, then it's okay.
Then
And I
must be
just always go
moral.
back to, well, slavery was legal. Was it moral then? Did the morality of slavery change just because the legality changed?
Mhm.
It's like you can't say one and not, you have to understand history. There's so many people just don't want to. It's a cognitive dissonance. That's a phrase that I've recently really come to understand, where you have two realities and you just can't bring them together. Like the whole, well, if it's legal, then it's okay. Well, so was slavery okay at one point? And they're like, that's different. I'm like, no,
Is
it's
it?
not. It's not,
Dred
because you
Scott,
had something that was legal and then it wasn't, and then you
the
have
Dred
something
Scott
that's
ruling
legal and
was Supreme Court was a Supreme Court ruling. It
yeah,
was
I
the
know.
law of the land. Just like they want to have everybody measured, every other judge measured, every candidate measured on whether or not they support the law of the land. But as you pointed out, it's based on fiction
Mhm.
and poor interpretation of the law.
Yeah, just legally, it's a really, really poorly written case. It really was like it was thrown together, and it just happened to be like the stars aligning the wrong way, And so I don't know, but I think it is turning. I think that there's just such a massive movement, and um, pending things can. I don't know what things. I know it's kind of hopeless in California right now, and it might be in my city too. We've realized, but I think the rest of the country has their eyes awake, and
Yeah.
are starting to. Um,
Yeah, because there's more and more states that are putting forth these limits on abortion.
hmm
And so as soon as this case is decided, there's going to be a whole number of laws, a whole number of states that are going to have at the minimum 15-week abortion limits,
hmm
and like Texas is at 6 weeks, and I
And I'm
think
just worried that
Ohio.
there's going to be some executive orders that are going to come in to try to fix it.
Yeah, well, they are trying to pass a law to, I think it was called the Women's Protection Act. They have to have euphemisms. They have to shift the focus. They have to say, don't look over here, look over here. We're focused on the Women Protection Act, and how could you dare vote against the Women's Protection Act? But yet, and basically what it was supposed to do was to codify Roe v. Wade in the event that the law or the precedent is stricken. But at the Senate level, it was voted down. So there's
When
another.
was that?
That was March 3rd, I believe. Let me find the article.
Oh, that's why I missed it. Okay, that's good to
Yeah.
hear. Yeah, really liking Joe Manchin. I didn't see that one coming. That was a that was a silver lining in all this, is kind of seeing who are the rhinos and who are the dinos.
Yeah. Yeah. March 1st. I have this article. It says
Oh, that would have been Ash Wednesday, so that's
yeah,
why.
last ditch effort to codify Roe v. Wade just failed.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is definitely good
And
news.
this is
And
one reason I give up the news. After 2020 happened in 2021, I had a friend say, "You need to back away from the news." And I'm like, "But what if? What if?" She's like, "You need to back away." And I said, "Will you tell me if something's happening that I need to know about?" She's like, "Yeah, absolutely." And I heard the story of this guy in Alaska years and years ago, and he completely missed World War One and World War Two. He was in some remote part of Alaska, and he learned about them later, and he was like, "I'm sorry, what happened?" And it really, and then you have, Dave Rubin and even Matt Fradd, they take off a whole month. They're completely disconnected. The news is going to happen no matter what. Like, knowing about it doesn't stop it. It's good to know, but it's also good
yeah,
to step back and not know, and then
yeah. And
just, find out later.
it's not like you have an election that you have to be informed about right now.
Exactly, exactly.
So just
And there's a lot that you can get caught up in, and so that's why it's been hard not checking the news, and then I ran out
mhm.
of time on Sunday to even catch up. So it's been, you know, I, there's a lot that I missed, but I'm glad that you That's one of the reasons why I was like, yes, I want to do this, because I need someone to tell me kind of what's going on in the last week. Because I don't know much about the truckers at all. I know that the last number I saw was 70,000 trucks. Is that correct?
I have no idea how many actual trucks there are, but the thing is that people have their lives. Most of us work, during the day. Very few people can just say, all right, I'm going to go on a convoy across country. But I was there at the very beginning in Adelanto, and that was just great. And this is deep blue California, and we had probably 40 to 50 trucks that were like the big old semi trucks. And then there were a handful of RVs, and then there were hundreds of cars. And in those cars, I did some interviews with some people. A number of the people in cars are actually truck drivers. But, the cost of gas, the cost of diesel, they're like, okay, we don't know what kind of provision we're going to get, that people are going to donate. So we want to save as much money as possible. So they just decked out their cars, and they had all these flags and everything. And I had one person I spoke to that came all the way from Oregon, who was a truck driver. He came in his SUV. And then there was another gentleman who was a truck driver that came from Colorado, and they just want to be a part of it. And there are several people who have been live streaming this whole thing,
Oh, wow.
which gets back into the trust of the media. When you have a connection with someone, even though it's a non-professional, this guy doesn't do it for a living, but I have seen him from day one, and I know because I recognize the cars and I recognize some of the people. I'm like, I know he's there. I know he's not doing smoke and mirrors. He's there. He's talking to these people that I saw in Atalanto, and
Oh,
then there are more
wow.
people that are coming. And so, you can kind of trust that better, right? Because you have a connection with him, even though you may not know him personally, and he's not a professional.
Well, that's why
But
you have like local news stations. That's why, I mean, it's just everything's gotten just there's just too much information. You can have too much of everything. You can have too much
mhm,
water. You can have too much. Everything in moderation. And I just think these massive, news. Anyway, I could go into the other things.
yeah,
The biggest thing, the difference between the Canada one and the U.S. one is things weren't as bad here as they are in Canada. I mean, some
mhm,
states were as bad as there, but they're not as bad here. So the truckers up there were just like, we have no life. There is no other option, So they all banded together. Here in the U.S., it's like some of them are like, everything's fine over here, so there's no need for me to come and do that because
yeah.
life is fine for me.
And you can see that in
So,
the comments too, that there's a number of people who are
mhm.
totally against truckers because, hey, they're lifting all the mandates. But no, they're not. There are some states that still have you have to have certain things done to you in order to be able to keep a job.
I saw
So
that New York backed off on theirs. Is that correct?
I'm not sure about New York. There was one that just came up saying that the Supreme Court was refusing to hear a case for a group of people that were being mandated, and I don't remember what state that was. But
I saw it. Like I said, I just this Sunday I kind of ran out of time to look up. So I know that in was it New York City or New York State? I was just a headline that they were taking away the vaccine mandates and the masking of children in schools. But
that's good. That's good. I hope
how's it
so.
there in
Yeah,
California right now?
they have just done away with the masking requirement in LA County. That's where my husband works, in LA County. And so that's good because those things just, it's really hard to concentrate on your work and everything when you got to breathe through this thing. But yeah, but as far as I know, they are still pushing towards the inoculations for children. And the plan is by September. They had January, and there was a big pushback. Then now they've pushed it back to, all right, we'll give you till September. So that's still on the table in California. But
I don't know how
and
to fix California. I'm sorry.
yeah, well, but back to the pro life thing. We've got just a few more minutes here. I want to respect your time, and I really appreciate you joining
Oh
me
yeah,
today.
absolutely.
But the whole our Constitution is based on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Hmm.
And if you don't have life, you really can't pursue liberty and happiness. So, for people who think that, it's not, my body, my choice or whatever, because that's something that the truckers and the mandate freedom crowd have been kind of co-opting that. And I kind of like how I want to co-opt rainbows again. They're taking the my body, my choice. But how is that different with the truckers versus the pro-choice movement?
The it's here's the thing is I think if I had to guess just demographically, I think a lot of the truckers are pro-life, just because they're sorry, I got kids thundering. I don't know if you can hear that.
No.
No, okay, good, because it's distracting me. um, they, I think it's a great. I've been saying this from the beginning, like my body, my choice, and it's kind of, is it tongue in cheek? Yes, absolutely, but it's also making a point, like when you do it, it only involves one. It involves two people. This is just me, and they're trying to claim no, it does affect others too. And it's like, okay, but then let's do it both ways. Then, so if it does affect two people and yours affects two people, then y- you
Not your
know,
choice.
yeah,
Both of
exactly.
them
It's like,
affected
or
too.
if yours only affects one person, but it doesn't. That's the other thing. Is like it comes to who is a person and who's not. And we've been really, um, I I think it's very interesting because just like they have dehumanized, a lot of them even will say they think it's a baby, but they just say my rights supersede theirs. And so then the truckers, they're trying to, they themselves are a working class. It really comes to a class war. They're a working class, and they're saying, listen, I don't care that it's sorry, my brain is going everywhere. I don't, it doesn't matter to me that um you think it's what's best for me. This is my
Mhm.
body. I get to make the
Right.
decision.
It's my
It's
choice.
like
Yeah.
when I was going to my library, and for the longest time, they shut down all the kid activities. You couldn't, they had all, it was a fabulous library for kids, had all these things at their level. It was a wonderful place to go. It was like an indoor playground, and they shut it all down. And
Mhm.
they just today, we went for the first time, and I was so angry because I'm sitting here going, why are you choosing for me what I can allow my kids to play with?
Mhm.
Like, why is that your choice to
Mhm.
decide if something is safe for my
Mhm.
kids? Like, no, that's not okay. I can wash my own children's hands before and after, but you're
Mhm.
literally saying children not welcome here
Yes, they
because
took everything away that the kids can touch. And, that's kind of how we build our immune systems as children is you play in the dirt and you stick things in your mouth
you
and
lick shopping carts and all those the things my kids have licked. I'm like, why? Why?
we go through phases on these things. I ran a children's consignment shop, and I had at one point the most popular thing in my store were these big, bulky grocery cart covers. So it would cover everything that the child could touch. And I couldn't keep those things in stock. It was just everybody wanted them. But like any other fad, it went away. People realized, this is stupid. I grew up all right. I survived. My immune system is fine. So
Hmm.
they, after a few years, I couldn't give them away.
Yeah.
I bought too many, and now it's like, all right, now I got to discount them. But
Oh, wow.
but yeah, retail.
So what are
I
your thoughts on
so
the,
done.
yeah, you probably learned a lot.
Yeah.
Your what are your thoughts on the truckers versus the pro-life movement?
Well, I think you're right on that. It is a matter of, yes, it is your body, your choice, and it's the same way with the pro life, pro choice. Your body, you can choose what to do with it. But the moment that is affecting somebody else, that can't get away with the trucker situation. If you don't like that a trucker might not have a mask on, you can choose to remove yourself from that situation. With the pro-life situation, you don't really have that choice. It's, the child, if you choose not to keep it, you've killed that child.
Hmm.
And Stephanie Gray, I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but she is a pro-life speaker, and she puts forth some wonderful arguments for the pro-life movement.
Hmm. Is she
That,
the one that had like the violinist? She debunked that one, the violinist
yeah,
argument.
yeah,
Hmm.
she's used that before.
Hmm.
But it's a matter of, like she used also the analogy of, you've got Captain Sully, the man who landed the plane in the river by New York. So he saved all these people going down there, and so he's the captain, and he was lauded because he, at potential great cost to himself, he was the last one to leave that airplane, wanting to make sure everybody got out of that airplane safe before he left. And so he was lauded as a hero because he put his passengers first. On the other hand, I think it was that same year, there was a captain of a ship that it beached, and it tilted over. I don't remember the name of the ship, but he did the exact opposite. Even though he was the captain, he was responsible for all the safety of everybody who was on that boat. he chose to take himself off the ship to make sure he was saved. And there were a number of fatalities as a result of that ship capsizing. But he didn't do his. He wasn't a hero. He left. And so, why is it that we want, we should encourage our women to be heroes in this situation, that they should be looking out for that unexpected person that's now dependent on them, because they're bigger, they're stronger, and in the worst case scenario, they can give the child up for adoption. They don't have to be a parent for the next 18 years. So if you ever have a chance, we're running out of time here, but to listen to her, I'm going to put some of her things down below. And also, of course, about how the pro-life movement is not just pro-birth. There's a
Oh, we're
number of
definitely pro women. That's the thing is they say the amount of times I hear people say all they worried about is the baby. They just, brush the woman aside. It's like you don't know the pro life movement. I mean, there's so many resources for the abortion clinic workers, for the women, for the fathers, for the children, for the siblings of the children. There's just you need a resource. It's available. I even had a friend who went to the local pregnancy center and she's pregnant with her seventh, married, has they were super excited, but they offered her a bunch of stuff for free even though she didn't really, I mean, she was like, seriously? And they said, yeah, what do you need? She's like, well, I could use a new crib. And they go, it's yours. I mean, you don't have to be like bottom of the barrel for people to want to help you. They're pro life. They're not pro just baby. They're
right,
pro life and they
right.
really do live it.
Yes,
So
yes, absolutely. And there's CareNet out there. There's Save the Storks,
mhm.
Knights of Columbus.
Save the Storks is an awesome one. I really like their stories, how they go about with their portable
Yeah, they have
ultrasounds.
shown that I think 80% of women who are abortion minded, if they see that ultrasound, they
Mhm.
choose life.
That's why
And that's
the techs turn the ultrasound away because they know people will change their mind.
absolutely, Planned Parenthood is not about getting that ultrasound. It's not about
Mhm.
mammograms. It is about performing an abortion.
Yep. And if you try to go there for if you are pregnant and you want prenatal care, they don't give it. It's not it's not Planned Parenthood. It's Planned
No,
Singlehood.
it's planned no children.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Planned No Parenthood is what it is. They don't if you're pregnant, they don't help you with that. So,
Yeah. Well, when
anyway.
I started this, Kim, I honestly thought, how am I going to stretch this out for a half an hour?
Oh, I could talk to you for more than a half an hour. Like I said, it just so happened to be on a night that I have
Yeah,
to head out. So,
there is so much that we can cover on pro-life, and I think that there are a lot of rainbows. There's a lot of silver linings that are coming out, and I just want to
mhm.
bring one more time here the
That was a
this
really good
particular verse.
scripture. Yeah, because
Yeah,
I,
I
I
think
do see a lot of people turning, and I'm just like, God, please forgive us.
yes, and we absolutely need that. We cannot expect God to withhold His wrath, and even after the time of the flood, um, God allowed His people to be sent into exile. You know,
hmm
they went into Babylon. What they had, two Babylonian exiles, and then that time from the Romans till the establishment of Israel. Israel was without a home.
hmm
So I'm just going to say it out loud here for those that are just listening. Again, this is Second Chronicles 7:14. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land. So let us just pray that the Supreme Court does the right thing, and that we just get this pro-life wave coming through, and then we can focus on some other things. Once we have the life down, then we can focus on
The liberty and
um,
in pursuit of
happiness.
happiness.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, thanks
All
so
right.
much. I appreciate you joining me,
You're very
and
welcome.
we will see you next time.
All right. Thank you,
Okay.
Jennifer. Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Thanks again for watching the first episode of Rainbows and Silver Linings. Please click on the link down below to go over to This Way Network and watch this week's episode, which is premiering in just a few minutes. Thank you and God bless.